Good evening. I have the distinct pleasure of being the guy with the easiest job this evening. These are the people that are going to teach you something. These are the guys that are going to have you walk out of here with the full capability that you came here to get.
So the Innovation Hub is an entity set up by the government in Gauteng under the Department of Economic Development. We are a subsidiary of what is now called the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency. And the GGDA is a leading agency helping to position Gauteng, helping the Department of Economic Development to position the economy in Gauteng and also to facilitate investments into the province. As a subsidiary of the GGDA, our role is to ensure that innovation, enterprise development play a meaningful role in terms of reducing poverty, growing the economy in Gauteng, and also creation of jobs, decent jobs in the province. We've got two legs, just like any human being. The one leg is an infrastructure leg, so we provide facilities and spaces for emerging knowledge workers to be able to come and operate from here and to be able to have meeting facilities such as a conferencing venue where we are having this meeting this evening. So that is one leg. The other leg is to run programs. And these programs range from skills development programs that we run together with industry to enterprise development programs. We run a number of incubators. We are part of also other incubators such as the M-Lab. And also we run other programs such as the Gauteng Innovation Competition to be able to facilitate and foster innovation within the province. And in addition to that, we create platforms such as these for people like yourselves, policymakers, entrepreneurs, businesses to come together and be able to have a conversation in terms of what will it take to position the innovation ecosystem in Gauteng and make sure that Gauteng maintains its position as the fifth largest economy in Africa. And so the Innov8 program is in essence our flagship program to be able to bring various stakeholders together.
We are here because we want to find the best way to make money out of our mobile apps and services. So our challenge in this country and in developing economies like us is to find those ideas and those means that allow us to make and create sustainable businesses out of this.
57 million. That's the amount of users you have that you have access to. But to be able to harness that, you need to understand what makes that user unique, because it's a personal device. Now, in Africa, we've entered the information era from a largely mobile-first screen, meaning that's our first technology that we have. So when you design for mobile, if you're PC-centric, it's to take certain functionalities that you have on your desktop to be mobile. But in Africa, you have a mobile-centric user. In other words, that mobile-centric user, that's his PC. It's where he keeps record of who of his family is where. It's his bank. In other words, it's one device that they multiply use. Give or take 3 to 4 years, it's going to become a reality that your low-end phone is going to be a cheap smartphone. Most of our connected people will then have a smartphone, but they won't have a bank account. That does not mean that they're going to go out and do M-Pesa, but they want to buy apps. And this is the IP. Get something where people that have no bank account can buy apps through something.
My mandate now has to be to work with developers and to help get content onto the BlackBerry smartphone and to create tools and spaces where people can come and develop and that we can give some advice. So I've learned a couple of things. One, it is so important that your app rocks the first time that they open it. So you really do have to get this user interface. Now, once you have all that great information and you do it, then what? So how do you get your application out into the market? How do you advertise so people start downloading? Word of mouth is incredibly important. The star ratings are very, very important. At BlackBerry, actually, we have something called our carousel. So we highlight particular applications that have done really well. What we've done now is just created APIs. And we are working very hard to get localized content that's relevant. So there's also monetization that way.
On the BlackBerry App Store, as an example, we've launched Carrier Channel, and what that does is we've taken insight in terms of what do our customers like and what do they want. And based on that insight, we've picked apps within the BlackBerry Store to say that as a telecom or a subscriber, you like these sort of apps, and we've sort of promoted that as well. And we've seen quite a bit of uptake in terms of the downloads from customers. So to Adele's point about customer experience, it's also knowing the customer very well in terms of what you're trying to provide. How do we use that to put our products in the spotlight? So how do you promote services, etc.? And that's very, very important from a brand perspective. So if I'm developing an app, what I want it to do? I want it to do sales. So how do I sell products and services? Service, how do I reduce my costs on the call center? And thirdly, how do I put that product in the spotlight? How do you use these new platforms for in-app advertising, etc.?
What needs to be in the network rather than what needs to be in the app for your apps to be successful? So in many respects, a lot of it is to do with the ecosystem that would be available to you or would need to be available for you for your apps to be attractive. The first thing that the operators need to do is find a way to provide predictability in terms of what is your customer going to pay. And this is typically a thing called policy creep. If your network is misbehaving, and your app takes a long time to download or a long time to open because it's interrogating something downstream from the network, are they going to blame your phone? Are they going to blame the network? What are they going to blame? Most of the time they're going to blame the app. The SDP is what gives you as a developer access to those platforms and allows you through a common set of APIs which you can write to be able to say, send a message based on location to screen type X and bill it at Y or Z. And these are things that are incredibly important for the ecosystem to work. The app can be the greatest app in the world, but if the ecosystem isn't something that works, then the app will never work.
When you develop a mobile application, you must first start by asking yourself a question. What is the problem? What are you trying to solve? Are you solving your problem? Are you solving your family's problem? Or are you solving a community's problem? Because that is what will actually dictate as to whether your innovation is going to be successful or not. If you are only developing a solution for your family, forget about it. There's millions and millions of applications. So how is yours going to compete, with all those fantastic applications out there? So it's very, very important for us to do a proper homework so that you can be successful.
So I think what we first need to focus on is where we are and who we're dealing with. So in South Africa, we've pretty much spoiled to be able to afford devices like these ones. What we're trying to address here is to bridge the gap between these two devices. Right? Now, if you look at these devices, that already tells you where your app should go. So if you're focusing more on this, you're looking at a niche market, they're definitely going to pay a price for your app, if it's good enough. If you're looking at this type of guy, he's worried about a number of things. Data, bread on the table, airtime, right? It's more likely it's still sending SMSs. If it's not sending SMSs, it's probably buying 5 rand airtime just to leave a message. We're busy talking big on this, but we're not talking big on this, which is what bulk of the people are hearing. Look at who you're targeting. Understand who you're targeting.
Let's have a look at the market that you're working in. Mobile, the largest technology platform in the history of mankind. Okay, over 6 billion mobile connections. And despite the Nokia thing of approaching 3 billion 3G connections at the moment. The core thing is making your app great. Differentiation. Differentiated user experience is what gets apps. One of the portions that gets apps going. So also have a look at future technologies. Understand what's coming. Look at what chipset companies like Qualcomm are doing. Their chipset roadmaps are up there on their website. Have a look at those. Look at the technologies they're pushing. LTE broadcast. LTE broadcast could change the landscape. Might move away from streaming.
The advertisers were saying, if you don't bring me relevance, I'm not interested in your app anymore. East Africa, there's a huge request for this sort of thing. Where's my mobile workforce? Is it actually doing the job? And what this app does is it actually only allows a person when he's at the asset, because you now know the SAT code or the address, the XY coordinate of the asset or the property, it only then opens on the mobile app the next step, and is only then allowed to take a photograph or fill in information in a digital form. So really it's all about understanding relevance, but from a location point of view. So
We have a division inside Qualcomm called Qualcomm Life that is heavily focused on the same industry as Ding within the energy sector. You must probably see it coming forward now in devices. Just for the rest of the people, so the Snapdragon SDK is, we call our chipset under the brand Snapdragon, and that what powers all the Nokia Lumias and the new BB Z10s. So what we did is we created an SDK that we make available a whole bunch of APIs to really make development easier, to what my point I was saying.
Operator bidding is being used for digital services, and whether it's prepaid or postpaid, as long as there's airtime in the bucket that somebody can tap into via the BlackBerry app world or the Android store. So currently through the WASPs, the wireless application service providers, through that ecosystem, most of the operators are given access to that. And because it's a controlled environment, self-regulated, it's easier to provide them access to a billing infrastructure than somebody who doesn't have access.
The majority of the customers who do not wish or want to use their credit cards, to buy mobile applications. And the deal is basically between the operators and guys like RIM. So there is no involvement of the WASP there. So it's a very, very straightforward business model. And obviously RIM gets to pass their revenue share to the developers.
HTML has a future, I believe. HTML5 has a future. But just like any other new involvement, it's got a learning curve, as it were. You can use HTML5. It does offer you a cross-platform compatibility, but it depends on the app.
So there's also, to the point of APIs being available, APIs are now being made available to control functionality that is within the device, camera, file storage, GPS functionality. So it's getting there.
Right. In some instances, we go as far if it's a very good idea, and we run on our platform, we go as far as actually funding that.
The fact that you're a developer does not mean that you are innovative yourself, because innovation starts with an idea. An idea can be generated by anyone of us. I'm encouraging all of us in this place to say, let's not limit ourselves because we are not developers.
In your ideas, just be careful of distinguishing between community needs and user wants. Where the one is something that we need to put there. For example, we need to put education out there, we need to put XYZ, but people aren't necessarily willing to pay for those services. So you could spend a lot of time actually developing a community need and not address a user want. Basically, we're working with the mobile developer ecosystem. The research that we do is out there to be tapped by you guys. I mean, Derek knows exactly where I am, and if you want to sit and we can thrash out some ideas on how to make it look and feel better, you're always welcome. Security is understandably a problem, and as your security goes up, your usability goes down.
Just, I think when it comes to the banks, when it comes to their own mobile app, for their own services, they have been quite innovative, a couple of the banks significantly more so than others. When it comes to their own apps, there's some amazing innovation happening, and they're only doing it because of the fact that partly they want to be competitive, and partly it significantly reduces their costs, because tellers sitting behind desks in bank branches are phenomenally expensive compared to an app.
The need is well understood. Currently, we're working towards developing a mobile lab, not a mobile lab, a mobile living lab, which means that we'll have a network of users out there, and we'll be able to rapidly give you feedback on whatever type of app you have. So that's in the pipeline. We have the time of our lives getting into universities. They are teaching youngsters antiquated methods of programming without relevance. Now, it needs to come from both sides. So we're having the conversations from an academic point of view, but there needs to be pressure from the student side as well. We don't want to learn things that we don't use anymore.
In September or October last year, in this very same venue, or the two venues, we actually had for the first time in South Africa what you call a multi-platform developer event. And it was actually supported by all of these guys that you see around the table. So there are initiatives, and perhaps what we need is just to add more energy into those things. The world that we live in today is the world of collaboration. So if you want to do things on your own, you want to pocket all the millions, forget it. You'll pocket it now and you'll not see it for the rest of your life. So the short answer to that is collaboration.
Enterprises are trying to get everybody while looking at security at the same time. So there needs to be a channel that is targeted specifically to those particular business or staff members.
But today it's the brands and the private companies or corporates which are actually driving or fueling the mobile app economy.
On that note, I'd like to thank everyone who took time to come out here and join us. And I hope that in a small way you did get what you were hoping to get. And we hope to see you again in 6 weeks' time. Thank you very much.